The Supreme Court recently provided significant clarity on Order 18 Rule 1 of the Civil Procedure Code CPC, which deals with the determination of whether the plaintiff or the defendant has the right to begin proceedings in a suit. This judgment has far-reaching implications for the understanding of procedural law and the concept of the burden of proof in civil cases. The general rule, plaintiff's right to begin. Under the CPC, the plaintiff typically begins the hearing, as they bear the burden of proving their claim. This is based on the principle that a plaintiff must first establish a valid case before the defendant is required to respond. However, an exception arises if the defendant admits the facts alleged by the plaintiff but denies the entitlement to relief by presenting additional facts or raising legal defenses. In such cases, the defendant gains the right to begin the hearing. Case background: the contested right to begin. This case involved a suit for specific performance where the plaintiff argued that the defendant should begin, as the defendant admitted the existence of the agreement in question. However, the trial court and the High Court rejected the plaintiff's contention, stating that the defendant's claim that the agreement was a sham transaction could not be treated as an admission sufficient to shift the burden of proof. The matter was escalated to the Supreme Court, where a bench of Justice J.B. Purdiwala and Justice R. Mahadevan upheld the lower court's rulings while offering a detailed interpretation of the procedural law. Supreme Court's key observations. 1. Burden of proof and evidence. The court reiterated that the burden of proof lies on the plaintiff to establish their case with positive evidence. However, exceptions to this general rule allow the defendant to begin when the defendant admits the plaintiff's allegations but introduces additional facts or legal arguments to challenge the relief sought. The court noted that plaintiffs could also rely on admissions made in the defendant's written statement and may even establish their claim during the cross-examination of the defendant's witnesses. 2. Reference to Section 102 of the Evidence Act. The judgment referenced Section 102 of the Evidence Act, which states that the burden of proof lies on the party who would fail if no evidence were produced. The court clarified that when the defendant accepts the facts alleged by the plaintiff but contends that the plaintiff is not entitled to relief, the defendant assumes the burden of proof and gains the right to begin. Hearing versus trial. The court highlighted the distinction between the hearing of a suit and the trial of a suit. Trial, the broader process that begins with the institution of a suit and includes all proceedings up to the final judgment. Hearing, a specific stage within the trial where evidence is presented and arguments are heard. The determination of which party has the right to begin pertains to the hearing stage. Court's discretion in determining right to begin. 1. Flexibility over fixed rules. Order 18 Rule 1 grants the plaintiff the right to begin, but it does not create a rigid obligation for the court to mandate this sequence. The court retains the discretion to decide which party should lead evidence first, based on the case's facts and issues. 2. Case-specific determination. The court observed that when the defendant's plea addresses the core issue of the case, the court may direct the defendant to lead evidence first. For instance, if the defendant's plea could potentially resolve the case outright, it makes procedural sense for the defendant to begin. 3. No party can insist on sequence. The court emphasized that neither the plaintiff nor the defendant can demand that the other party be directed to begin. The determination rests entirely on the court's discretion, guided by the circumstances and the objective of ensuring justice. 4. Justice over procedure. The court stressed that procedural rules are meant to facilitate justice, not hinder it. Therefore, a rigid application of the rules without regard to the case's specific context would defeat their purpose. Conclusion and key takeaways. The Supreme Court upheld the High Court's and trial court's rulings, dismissing the plaintiff's appeal. However, the judgment provided essential clarity on procedural law and the concept of the burden of proof under Order 18 Rule 1, CPC. The key principles established are: 1. Plaintiff's right to begin. The default rule is that the plaintiff begins the hearing, as they bear the burden of proof. 2. Defendant's right to begin. When the defendant admits the plaintiff's facts but disputes entitlement to relief, the defendant assumes the burden of proof and gains the right to begin. 3. Court's discretion. The court has complete authority to determine the sequence of evidence presentation, based on the case's facts and issues. 4. No fixed rule. Procedural rules are flexible and must be applied in a manner that serves the ends of justice. This judgment reaffirms the Supreme Court's commitment to balancing procedural law with judicial discretion to ensure fairness and efficiency in civil litigation. It offers valuable insights for legal practitioners, litigants, and scholars, shedding light on the nuanced interplay between procedural rules and the principles of justice.